Today we're here to recognize municipalities that has adopted a comprehensive smoke-free ordinance in the communities that they serve.
Why is that important?
It's important because it's very important for us to protect the health of all Mississippians, and by passing this ordinance, it ensures that individuals are not exposed to secondhand smoke while they're out living their lives with families.
Good afternoon. I am Rhonda Shirley, Government Relations Director for the Partnership for Healthy Mississippi, and I would like to welcome each of you here today at our annual Smoke-Free Award Ceremony to recognize communities that have adopted strong smoke-free ordinances over the last calendar year. And on behalf of the Mississippi State Department of Health, Office of Tobacco Control, the Partnership for a Healthy Mississippi, and the Social Science Research Center at Mississippi State University, which does all of the surveillance and evaluation of our programs and tobacco control policies, the Smoke-Free Mississippi Coalition, which consists of several organizations across the state, including American Cancer Society, Cancer Action Network, the American Heart Association, American Lung Association. We thank you for being here with us today while you're here at the Mississippi Municipal League Conference. The Smoke-Free Mississippi Coalition focuses its efforts on educating Mississippians on the harmful effects of secondhand smoke, as well as encourage the passage of strong smoke-free laws to include restrictions on electronic cigarettes. According to the Surgeon General's findings, secondhand smoke is not just a mere annoyance. It is a serious health hazard that leads to disease and premature death in children and non-smoking adults. It went on further to state that there is no safe level of exposure to secondhand smoke, and the only way to protect yourself and others is to have a total smoke-free environment. Currently, the state of Mississippi does not have a smoke-free law. However, 28 states and the District of Columbia have smoke-free laws in place, as well as 1,051 localities across the state, including those of you that are here today. And 9 of those 28 states and the District of Columbia have added restrictions for electronic cigarettes to their ordinances. And that's important because Mississippi, like a lot of other states, are struggling with the emerging epidemic of electronic cigarette use among our youth in communities and schools across the state. And I don't want to prompt anything that Dr. McMillan will talk about, but I'm sure he will mention to you that e-cigarette use among our high school youth has more than doubled over the past several years. So that's a serious issue. And in December 2016, the Surgeon General's report indicated that electronic cigarettes can contain nicotine and other potentially harmful chemicals, including carcinogens that are known to cause cancer in humans and animals. And as you can see here by this beautiful map, that we've made tremendous strides in terms of providing protections from secondhand smoke in communities across the state. Currently, there are about 156 communities that have adopted strong smoke-free ordinances, and 121 of those communities have added restrictions on electronic cigarettes. Now, when we first started this movement many years ago, a little town called Metcalfe in the Mississippi Delta adopted the first comprehensive smoke-free ordinance. And at the time, it protected 0.03% of the state's population. Well, fast forward to 2019, we currently have about 34.99%, I believe to be exact, Dr. McMillan, of our state's population protected by law from secondhand smoke. However, If every municipality in this state adopted a smoke-free ordinance, we would not be fully protected, because roughly 55% of our state's population reside in areas that are unincorporated. And for that reason, we've seen a number of counties join this movement. To date, I believe we have 5 counties that have adopted comprehensive smoke-free ordinances, and those counties are Issaquena, Sharkey, Madison, Coahoma, and Yellowbusha, I believe. So we are very proud to have them join our efforts. As I stated, we've made tremendous strides in this effort, but, we still have a lot of uncovered territory that needs to be addressed through a statewide smoke-free air law. So public health advocates and myself will continue to work on the state level in terms of educating legislators about the importance of having these laws in place. I will tell you that most of our state leaders reside in communities that have strong smoke-free ordinances, and they enjoy living in those communities. And they have applauded us for our efforts and have told us to continue our work on the local level. So we are continuing our work on the local level, but like I stated, in order for us to fully protect everyone, we need a comprehensive smoke-free law. So in the meantime, in between time, we will continue that push. And you've heard from one of our mayors today, but I would like to invite him to come up and to share some of his experiences as being one of the early pioneers in the smoke-free movement. Mayor Gene McGee with the city of Ridgeland has been just a phenomenal champion for health and wellness issues in this state. And like he stated to this gentleman, the city of Ridgeland went back and amended their ordinance to include restrictions on electronic cigarettes in their ordinance. So at this time, I would like to ask Mayor McGee if he would come up and share with us.
Thank you, and I'd like to thank all the groups that are involved that help promote what we're trying to do, and that is to create a healthier Mississippi. I remember when we first started working on our non-tobacco and non-smoking ordinance, and I remember the different people that came to our meetings and talked about that we were going to ruin our economy, that the businesses would go out of business, that no one would want to come to restaurants and go shopping and all those places that you get that had smoking at that time. And also, I do remember that we were, I think, the only city in Mississippi that a group of people got together and sued us and took us to the federal court. And we won that case, thank goodness, after a number of years. But everything has proven to be just the opposite. I get comments almost daily of people that are able to come and enjoy a good meal or go to shopping and other places, and they don't have to worry about cigarettes and secondhand smoke, which is very important that they're able to do that. I've had people tell me they were able to bring their families, their children, and enjoy the atmosphere instead of sitting somewhere and a few tables over that was smoking. That smoke drift over there and cause them not to enjoy their meal. So it's very important. But it's important to me as I see people who smoke that we try to influence them to quit. I see so many people who today are suffering health-wise because of the fact that they spend the time smoking those old nasty cigarettes, and they're missing out on such wonderful things with their families because about the time a kid wants to hit a home run or something, they go off somewhere to smoke. And I know people that do that. But so I would love to see the state of Mississippi pass a comprehensive law that stops all this nonsense of smoking statewide. I think that would be the greatest thing. I want to congratulate those who are getting their awards today. You've come a long way. If you haven't added vaping to it, e-cigarettes, please do so, because I can assure you the research is showing that it's just as bad or not worse than smoking a regular cigarette. Thank y'all. I'm not going to take any time. You got plenty to do, but God bless y'all, and thank y'all for letting me have a word.
I'd like to say good afternoon. Bring you greeting from the city of Philadelphia. Our journey was not easy. We started out, I'm going to say, cut through the chase. It took us about 6 years. we would be one vote shy, 3-2, one vote shy for 6 years. We get a new board, we got a new board, still one vote shy. I always told my board it is important enough. They came and they talked about the dangers of secondhand smoke. Finally, one day, a few months ago, one of our board members happened to miss a meeting. Yes, and I was not intended to bring it up that night, but thank God for one of our aldermen. He said, I don't see no reason why we can't vote on it tonight. I just brought it up for consideration. And lo and behold, we did. And, you know, when one is absent, the mayor has the change in votes. So lo and behold, it was 2-2 again. And guess who made the difference? And we have our ordinance. You can say that was whatever, but we used whatever tactic we could to get the job done. Even after the other board member came back, there was a push to get him to change his mind, but he stuck with us. So it was not overturned, and we are here today to tell you that Philadelphia is smoke-free. Social media beat us up real good, told us that we was trying to stop people from smoking in the city. In essence, they were telling the truth, but they said you couldn't smoke in your backyard. Some even said you couldn't even smoke meat in the backyard. I'm just telling you how foolish it was. Now, I don't answer Facebook charges. I don't answer Facebook things, but I do have some surrogates that do. So a young lady came to me. She said, Mr. Mayor, they just talking things that they don't need to be talking. And I said, well, I can't answer it. I'm not going to get into Facebook posts and all those things. I said, but let me tell you what to say. So mayors, you have to use whatever tactic you can to get the message across. I said, but tell them the facts. And I gave them several facts to put back on Facebook. And lo and behold, the negative died out completely. Right now, we're in the process of getting the labels and putting the things on the doors and getting the businesses involved. Yes, there's a lot of negatives because they think we're trying to control their lives. And I told them this, and I said, there's a speed limit that says 55 or 70 or 65. There's a stop sign. There's a yield sign. And I said, we already control your well-being, your safety right now. And smoke-free is just another way that we're trying to prevent secondhand smoke in your children, at your schools, at the games, and the restaurants. And when I went at it in that angle, they began to see, understand. You're not trying to control us. You're just trying to be a blessing. So those of us who are in here, I commend you. We had a struggle, but the struggle is worth the fight. And we are now a part of the smoke-free, and we hope Mississippi continues to grow. It is working. It is a viable, probably one of the best preventative programs that I've seen in my time for your well-being. I was a paramedic for about 16 years. I've seen people cough up their lungs from lung cancer. I've seen people sitting out in the cold where it's about 5 degrees because they couldn't get their breath because of lung issues from cigarette smoke. So I've seen it firsthand, I've handled it firsthand, and I know smoke-free is the way to go. Thank you for your effort, and thank you for praying for us that we finally made that choice.
Thank you, Mayor Young, for leading the charge to make Philadelphia a smoke-free city and a healthier community for the folks in Philadelphia. At this time, we have Tiffany Johnson. She's the Bureau Director for the Office of Tobacco Control, Mississippi State Department of Health. Will come up and share with us.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Rhonda mentioned, I'm Tiffany Johnson. I'm with the Mississippi State Department of Health, Office of Tobacco Control. Mayor Young, I would like to say all of those things that you said was going on in the community about them not being able to smoke their meat in the back of their backyard, we got those calls in our office and wanted to know how to respond to that. So a lot of people would like to know, what is the Department of Health, what's the Office of Tobacco Control's role in these efforts as it relates to policy? And our efforts are educating and informing. So what we do is that we provide funding to community-based organizations, and these are your Mississippi Tobacco Free Coalition, which we have 34 that's positioned all across the state of Mississippi. So all 82 counties, you have a representative who can come in, where a lot of y'all probably worked with them with the work that you was doing with your ordinance. But they would come in and they would provide this technical assistance for you, provide the education to the community when there are misinformation that's there. They'll be the ones who can come in and provide that correct data, that correct information. And a lot of this information comes from Dr. McMillan, and he will talk about some of those facts and data when he gets up. But we provide those tools to them in order for them to provide it to you all. And another role that we play within our office, if we have a technical assistance municipality grant that we offer to municipalities. It helps of them providing education to their communities about living in a smoke-free environment and protecting those from secondhand smoke. And we offer up to $2,500 for municipalities to do activities and events surrounding that. So if any of you that's in the room that currently has a policy and you're interested in applying for the grant, please reach out to your Mississippi Tobacco Free Coalition and they can walk you through the steps of applying for that. But from the Department of Health, we just want to thank you all for your hard work. We would like to, invite you all and bring you into the smoke-free community family that we have, and hopefully one day we're standing here and all of our, the state of Mississippi will be covered at 100% from secondhand smoke.
Thank you, Tiffany. And as she mentioned, there are 34 Mississippi Tobacco-Free coalitions across the state, and these coalitions reflect the personality and diversity of their communities, and they have representation from all sectors of the community, serving on those coalitions, from the business community, education community, faith-based community, you name it, they are represented on those coalitions. And today I see a couple of our Mississippi Tobacco-Free Coalition directors in the room. So at this time, would you please stand? One of which is the mayor of Sunflowers. So thank you all for being here with us today. She also mentioned the work that Dr. Robert McMillan does for the tobacco control community. This beautiful map here is something that is designed and updated on a pretty regular basis by the Social Science Research Center, but they're a valuable resource tool for the tobacco control community in that they provide us with the data that we need to go out and talk about the importance of these policies. I think I mentioned earlier about the emerging epidemic of e-cigarette use among youth. Well, those numbers were brought to bear by the evaluation that was conducted by the Social Science Research Center. Social Science Research Center. As well as the Youth Tobacco Survey, the survey, what is the climate of tobacco control, which tells us how Mississippians feel about these policies and programs we have in place. And our colleagues across the country are envious of us having that resource available at our fingertip. And I know that the Social Science Research Center has been called on many times by some of our neighboring states to assist them in their efforts. So without further ado, our rock star, Dr. McMillan, if you would join us and share with us some of the outcomes of some of the research that you've done.
Thank you and welcome. And as Rhonda says, we are continuously updating this map. In fact, we made an update to it this weekend to add sunflower to it with a Sharpie because you guys implemented your smoke-free ordinance after we'd gone to print with this panel. As was mentioned earlier, my role with my staff, or colleagues and I at Mississippi State University Social Science Research Center, we're responsible for surveillance and evaluation of our statewide tobacco control programs. And we do a lot of different types of surveillance. One of the things that we do, as you mentioned earlier, with the Social Climate Survey, is we monitor attitudes and practices among the adults in Mississippi. And one of the things that we found, and you can see it on this fact sheet at the table you can grab later, is that when we ask adults if they favor or oppose a comprehensive statewide smoke-free law, 71.4% of adults in Mississippi support it, and only 21.6% are opposed. And we find that support is equal among Republicans and Democrats. In a society where we're divided on so many things, this is an issue that unites Mississippians. We even find that the majority of smokers want to have a statewide comprehensive smoke-free law. They know that smoke is harmful to other people. So there's a lot of public support for smoke-free laws, both at the local level and at the statewide level. One of the things we also monitor is impacts of these statewide these local municipal smoke-free ordinances. One of the things that we know from looking at this for several years now, actually more than a decade, is that tax revenue from the Tourism and Economic Development Tax, which is a tax on hotels and or restaurants, actually went up a little bit after the municipalities went smoke-free. Basically, the smokers stay home for a few days or weeks, and then they realize they're missing out. And the non-smokers come out of the woodwork, because restaurants may look out and see a bunch of smokers. What they don't see is me sitting in my living room getting takeout because I'm not going to go into their restaurant because there's a lot of smoking. So we find that revenue actually goes up. We also found, when we looked at hospital admissions across several municipalities in the state, as well as looking at the hospital discharge data set for the entire state, hospital admissions for heart attacks actually went down after these local ordinances were passed. You may not know this, but some of you may take a baby aspirin a day to prevent a heart attack. Basically, the baby aspirin keeps the blood platelets from being active and forming a clot. Well, it turns out cigarette smoke is the opposite. It actually causes blood clots among somebody who's already at risk for a heart attack. So across the state, we've seen a decrease in heart attack admissions, saving the state and individual insurers and employers hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. We've also seen that our youth smoking rate has plummeted since we started doing these smoke-free laws. And a lot of things have been in the mix. We've had youth programs, we've had the tobacco-free coalitions, but we've also been snowballing these smoke-free ordinances. And our youth smoking rate was 33% in 1999. 33% of high school students in Mississippi were current smokers. It's now down to 7.4%? 7.2. Nell is the director of the Youth Tobacco Survey. So that's the lowest it's ever been. We've had phenomenal success with lowering our youth smoking rate. One of the challenges that we're facing, that was mentioned earlier, is the use of e-cigarettes. For the last 3 or 4 years, about 10% of our high school kids have used e-cigarettes. It's gone up 1% or down 1%, but we've been very good at keeping that e-cigarette craze from exploding in Mississippi. Well, about a year and a half ago, a company called Juul released these highly addictive, highly easy to conceal devices, and they socially market them very aggressively. These things are taking over. We looked at e-cigarette use this last fall. It was up from 11 point something to 21.6%, I believe. We saw a huge increase in e-cigarette use. So it's really important to not only include these e-cigarettes in ordinances, but to inform municipalities and local restaurants on how to detect when people are using these to prevent the public use of them in places where smoking and vaping is prohibited by law. As many of you know, these devices are incredibly insidious. In addition to being very addictive, they look like a flash drive. They only have an aerosol emission that's visible for a second or two, so it's very easy for somebody to violate a smoke-free, vape-free ordinance with one of these devices. And that's one of the things that a lot of our municipalities are struggling with. And we're also struggling with how to help addicted teenagers to these things. The products came on the market so fast, we didn't have the regulation or the science to deal with addiction. But I want to end on a positive note and again remind and reiterate this map. When we started this map, it was Marysville and Metcalfe. Then it was Starkville, Tupelo, Ridgeland, pretty quickly came on, Meridian, Oxford. We now have 156 municipalities protecting just shy of 35% of our population. So we are going in the right direction, and that's good news for the health of Mississippi as well as for the healthcare cost of Mississippians. Thank you.
For many, many years, the city of Yazoo City was approached about this. And for many, many years, we were unable to pass it. As you know, when you talk about not smoking, people come up with all kinds of things. So eventually, we simply worked it. We had some support from the hotels in our city and some of our restaurants. And then we had some support from the organization. And we came up and we brought it up probably 6 or 7 meetings in a row until we reconsidered it and got it passed.
What kind of response have you had since the ordinance has gone into effect?
Well, so far from our hotels in our city, they are very, very helpful. You know, they are working to become a green city because there's some advantages to them when visitors come. And also our restaurants are somewhat happy about it. I think we've only had a negative response from one location, but things are going really well. And we did have some people asking if they could smoke in their yards and things like that, or, you know, in their cars. But you know, all of that is settled down, so everything's working really well, very positive.
As a smoker yourself, how do you feel about this?
Well, I was the number one proponent. I'm the number one advocate. First of all, those of us who smoke, we know. There is no question that we know. It's a habit that we formed, and it's a habit that we know we need to eliminate. So I obviously seek to eliminate this habit out of my life. I think it's a stress kind of thing. But the point is that none of us should smoke, really. And so I'm not the kind of person who would want to harm others from something that I do. I don't really want to harm myself either, but I am, and so I want to end this.
Okay, well, obviously we are a smoke-free community, and we also included the new e-cigarettes in our ordinance. A lot of positive things have happened. First of all, it's helped us become the healthiest hometown city for 2 times by Blue Cross Blue Shield. But we hear almost daily people complimenting the fact that they can go into restaurants and businesses and not have to worry about secondhand smoke and the smell of smoke, and it just it helps people to have a healthier lifestyle by not smoking.
When communities are faced with this issue, one of the arguments is that businesses will be hurt if they require their patrons to stop smoking. What has been your experience in your city?
Our experience has been it's helped business. In fact, we know for a fact that there are restaurants that had smoking before that don't have it now, that their business is up. We know that there are customers who wanted to bring their families to restaurants and other places that had cigarettes and smoking, and they wouldn't do that, but now they do because they know they can go there and it's smoke-free. So anyone that believes that it hurts business, they're just mistaken. It absolutely is a positive impact, has a positive impact on business.